Florida is preparing for its largest evacuation in 7 years as Hurricane Milton intensifies over the Gulf of Mexico.
This hurricane is a monster, now with winds up to 160 miles per hour.
Right now, it looks surprisingly calm outside, with some sunlight, a touch of gray, but the peacefulness is often the calm before the actual storm hits. And when you take a look at this from just outer space, I mean, this thing looks just massively insane.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
But of course, the real concern isn't how bad does it look, but rather how bad will the damage be after it hits. And there was a lot of concern, especially because earlier last week we had the news of the Fed saying that there's no money left to respond to hurricanes after FEMA spent $1.4 billion on the migrant situation.
I beg your pardon?
Which is pretty scary and concerning news to hear when you have this horrific, disastrous hurricane on its way, and then the government pretty much saying, hey, look, our wallets are pretty much empty. We spent the money on something else. And this honestly started bleeding into the stock market as we ended up seeing the volatility index, which is essentially a gauge of fear, start climbing upwards, which makes sense, especially when you have statements like this with Homeland Security just simply saying we do not have the funds. But interestingly enough, we ended up seeing fear kind of taper off as we got a bit of good news recently. Now, kind of questionable, but good news, because we got the news that they found it. Watchdogs found $7 billion in untapped FEMA funds, and there's going to be some funds that are available. And of course, that's great news, especially when you hear that Hurricane Milton may be one of Florida's worst storms in over 100 years. And like I said, it's definitely great news, but it's also a bit questionable because it's like, well, where did you find $7 billion at? Did you just lift a rock and, you know, find a money gun and we're like, oh, we're good now? Like, where did this come from? But regardless, right, that's just inefficiencies of government. The good news is, even if there is, you know, horrific damage, there's going to be at least some safety provided afterwards, which is of course the real concern.
If the hurricane stays on its current track, it will be the worst to hit the Tampa area in more than a century.
Now, if you are in the Tampa area, please make sure to evacuate for yourself, for your family, your pets, your friends. It's very serious out there. I know currently gasoline is a bit of a scarce commodity. So if you have to carpool, then by all means carpool. It's not too late. It's never too late. I know a lot of individuals don't feel the need to leave due to some issues of possibly not wanting to lose their possessions or their property, but I promise you, your life is much more important than any physical possession that you may own. Fortunately, although I was unable to secure any gas and I'm going to be staying behind, I am in an area where there's not a evacuation order, and last time we had a severe hurricane of, you know, this category 5, which was Irma. The power just went out for a couple of days, so, you know, I am prepared with just lots of water bottles and, you know, just some food. But for those of you that are in the Tampa region, again, do whatever you can to make sure that you could get the right resources you need and to evacuate. Unfortunately for Irma, there were over 100 lives lost, and I get it. There's this meme in Florida where, you know, hurricanes are really not much because we're used to it and everyone overreacts, but I promise you, if you're in Tampa, look, that's just a meme. Please make sure that you take care of your friends, your family, your pets, and yourself, and do whatever you need. There are resources available out there. And for those of you guys that are familiar with the channel, or if you're not new to the channel, make sure to subscribe if you're interested in getting market updates. But I may possibly, there's a high chance that I may not be able to upload content for a few days. You never know with, you know, electricity and the power. Last time the power went out for a couple of days. Some regions didn't have power for like a week and a half. Luckily, I do have my phone charge and some power banks, so I will be able to most likely still provide the daily briefings for those within the Push and Profit private group, as we habitually do, breaking down what's going on in the markets. But with that said, just thank goodness there is some safety and funding available for those that will need it, and make sure to clear. And with that said, hopefully you guys got some value, and I'll see you guys on the next video, whenever that may be. Take care.